Welcome to Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, the podcast where we review movies that were overhyped but did not make it in the box office or were a critical failure. In some cases, they succeeded with both, but not the hardcore fans. I am your host, Robert Moda, and joining me today, I have Mark Kirkman from Adrenaline Cinemas and Panels of Pixels. It's been an interesting year in Hollywood. A lot of things have happened. Some great movies have come out. Some bad movies that were supposed to be good have not done very well. There have been some surprises out there. There's also been a lot of talks behind the industry where, you know, things with the streaming services, things with industry news, with things like Discovery and HBO and the things that are going on over there. Things also with the same thing with Disney. The beginning of the year, you know, we saw a lot of controversy out there. But what I wanted to start with was, you know, I just want to start with the top movies of this year. And the reason I want to start with that is because they've been some great surprises. Actually, what have you seen that you think, you know, has been great for you?
In movies, well, I'm going to go take it way back to when Prey came out. Something that I was supposed to cover with Steve Brown on Adrenaline Cinema, who is also my co-host on Panels of Pixels podcast. But we never got to it, unfortunately. I really want to get to that eventually. But I thought it was done very well, and it was direct to Hulu, and it was a Hulu movie.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. It took the Predator series back to its origins in the very beginning, and I thought it was done very well. Next up would be Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing to actually watch, and he hit it out of the park again.
Right.
You know, he's coming one after the other. Culturally aware about people and having more race involved. We had Glenn from The Walking Dead in there as well.
Correct.
And an amazing cast of color, which, you know, we need more of. And you know, you and I have already covered it on Adrenaline Cinema. We did Uncharted, which was fun, and it's a fun-filled game movie, and it was done very much in the likes of how the game was played. That was amazing.
So you like Uncharted? I mean, even though Uncharted was not a very big success,
I still like it regardless.
You still liked it, okay?
Yeah. To me, I think it did well in the theater for fans,
right?
But I don't think it did well as far as monetarily for the movie industry itself or the movie company.
My thing on that was I think that I've heard that there were people that were divided. Like, you had hardcore fans. Some were divided, some were not. Yeah, a lot of people did not like the idea of Tom Holland being
that character.
Drake, because they were saying how, you know, he was too young. But that being said, I mean, it wasn't a movie that I thought was that great, but it was entertaining enough.
Yeah, I look at it on a whole entertainment spectrum when it comes to those particular movies.
We'll start with this. So one of the most surprising movies, but it was one of these things that this movie could have come out during the pandemic. They could have done the same thing they did with other big tent movies, like they did with Wonder Woman 84 and things like that, which was Top Gun Maverick.
That is one.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, Glenn Powell, Val Kilmer actually came on it. Movie made till this day $1.48 billion out of a budget of $170 million. So this was a movie that was unexpected to make that much, but a lot of people gravitated towards it. A lot of people liked it. They kind of, I mean, the chemistry between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly were great. Miles Teller was great in it. The really cool thing about that very emotional part with Val Kilmer in it. So it was a movie that grabbed, I think, everybody, and it did very well in the box office. Are they going to make a second one? Or a third one? I don't know if they will. But it was a movie that really, really, like, Tom Cruise was so adamant about making sure that this had to be seen in the theaters. And I think that was actually a very good call. I mean, they waited. I mean, this thing could have came. I think this would have come out 2 years ago, but they waited until the pandemic was done, and people went to the movies, like crazy.
Oh, it was really anticipated, honestly, when it was first talked about. It was before the pandemic hit.
Right.
And the fact that they delayed it, they did the right thing in delaying it, because this is a movie that you had to see in the theater.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've seen it. I saw it like at least I think 3 or 4 times in the theater, and then of course once I got it on 4K Blu-ray, I seen it another 3 or 4 times too. So it's just a great movie. I think soundtrack is great, and it made people come back to the movies, which is something that we've been missing, especially since the pandemic. The other one is the Batman, also very surprising. I went into it thinking that it was going to be a flop. I'm not a big Robert Pattinson fan, but I think he did a great job on that. Zoe Kravitz was another one that I didn't think she was going to do well with Catwoman, but she did. Paul Dano just knocked it out of the park when it came to that. But honestly, the biggest surprise of the whole thing was Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell,
as the Penguin. That was such an amazing transformation that he did, which now they're thinking of actually doing a standalone series in HBO Max, but that's something that's still up in the air.
I think that's where DC will probably go for a little while before we got James Gunn coming in and creating his own DCU.
We'll cover that in just a moment.
I know that, but
that one's gonna be covered.
That was actually on my list, the Batman, and you and I had covered that on Panels to Pixels too.
Right.
I think that was one of the first few podcasts that you were on,
right?
And just in preps, and I launched that before I went to Atlanta.
Right. And then another one, like you were saying, Prey, Amber Midthunder. I thought she was great on that. Mm-hmm. That movie was only a $65 million budget, but of course that came out in Hulu, so of course they don't say how much money it made or anything like that, but it did kind of bring back the Predator franchise and refreshed it.
Yes,
the creature looked a little bit different, but still the same.
Yeah.
But it had, great effects, great action, great story behind it, phenomenal. And then the biggest surprise I think out of the year was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
It was an interesting twist on a movie.
It was, but it had some great performances by Michelle Yeoh, which Michelle Yeoh, in this movie basically is her resume of all the stuff that she could do. From martial arts, acting, being funny, being dramatic, being everything that you could think of that Michelle Yeoh can actually be. She did it in this movie. Funny enough, this movie only cost, I think, what was it, like $25 million, but it made about $103 million. Yeah, but it's a movie that showed that you could have a low budget film still become a phenomenon out there. And this was actually great. And it brought back Ke Huy Quan, which was, for those of you guys, Short Round in the Indiana Jones movies. And he did also a phenomenal job in this. I was so surprised how well his part was, and so much emotions that he conveyed through the whole thing. So, but very well acted. So, very good movie. I was very surprised, and of course, Oscar contender for the Oscars coming up. And then, like you were saying, Nope, which was $68 million budget, it did $171 million. But Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer was like the real big star coming out of this. Jordan Peele's third movie, so he did a great job, and it's a really awesome take on the UFO thing. Which I thought was really good.
It brought UFOs back into the world, and getting us all elated about that. Others that I would also recommend, like X. If you remember that movie, X.
Which movie?
It has Jenna Ortega and a few other actors in it. It was about people doing an X-rated film out in the backwoods, like in Texas or something.
Oh, yes. I heard something about that. I didn't see it. What was the reaction?
I saw it. It was very well done for a low budget film.
Right.
Yeah, it gained critical acclaim. And now we have a new movie that came out just after that within 2022 called Pearl, which is a
Right.
prequel. And I think they already have their own little series within it, but it's Jenna Ortega before she came out as Wednesday Addams in
Right.
Wednesday, the series on Netflix. But she was also in, Your Babysitter is a Killer or something like that.
Okay.
It was a way for her to get out there in the world and get that the character
Right.
and get that role. And I think that's really cool. Other things I would say, I really loved The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage.
Never got to see it. Didn't do well at all in the movie theaters, from what I hear.
No,
But it's Nicolas Cage, so I was looking forward to it. I just never got around to it. So it's
it's
something that's in my list.
entertaining.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining, action packed. You get a great laughs out of both Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. So, mind you, Wonder Woman 1984, Pedro
Right.
Pascal was over the top in that. It shows his comedic style chops.
Right.
So I think it works with this particular movie. If it wasn't a hit in the theaters, it was definitely a hit on streaming and on demand. And
Right.
I think it's something that people should check out.
All right. Well,
And then lastly, I would just mention Hellraiser, the remake that we got.
that's been I saw it. I was somewhat kind of divided.
Amused.
I was right. I was divided on it. One, I think it was still somewhat. I mean, when you look at both movies,
Yeah.
like the first Hellraiser and this one, the Cenobites very different on this,
Yeah.
version of Hellraiser. It entertained me, and it was okay. I came out of it going, all right, that's a different take on it. I just didn't see it. Just didn't knock my socks off on that, and I was just like, all right, so.
Yeah.
But then you go back to seeing, the other Hellraiser movies, and you're like, holy shit, those are really bad. I mean, top flops of the year. So top flops of the year, man. This also was a monumental year for that.
Yes. Belly flops. Big
Yes.
time.
One of the biggest ones, and there were some. So Sony's version of Morbius was just hideous.
Yep.
Definitely a big box office bomb. Well, I don't know if it's a box office bomb. I didn't take a look at the numbers,
It made money and gained appeal by viewers or fans.
Right.
But regardless, it was terrible in story.
Yes, critically,
they cut it away, and hence why I did not cover this on Panels to Pictures.
Yeah, they decimated that. All the critics decimated that movie. But the biggest one, honestly, was Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I mean, I think this was Dwayne The Rock Johnson's year of kind of getting his ego unchecked, because
that's on my list too. Black
Adam
was terrible. You and I have had many conversations about this, and it had promise in the idea and appeal, but the writing was just poor.
Yes.
They had decent characters and moments here and there, but that's all I'll say good about it. After that, they really needed to recheck themselves when they did the story.
Yeah, no, it was a movie that I mean, if this was what Dwayne Johnson was working for 15 years, I have to question his choices as because I think he thought that his brand was going to reignite the DCEU, which it did not.
No,
and the fact that they bought in and I think it was a desperate move to bring in Henry Cavill at the end to try to actually get viewers to go to the movies to see this. And while it did a little bit, it still wasn't enough for people to go out there to watch this movie. And, we'll talk about the whole, DCEU thing and everything with Henry Cavill and how things happen. But that to me was a flop. Morbius was a flop. The other one that was, and of course, which I found strange that it did not do very well, was Pixar's Lightyear.
Oh yes, but that was the direct to Disney Plus.
It was direct. No, actually, it was still. They
Oh,
still.
it was in theater as well
They
as
did
Disney
release
Plus.
it in
Yeah,
theaters, but a lot of people
simulcast.
did not, and I enjoyed it.
I actually did enjoy it too.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, but it was just for Pixar's, track record. It just didn't do very well. So that was a big flop there. You had Strange Worlds, which I also watched on HBO Max, not on HBO Max, on Disney Plus the other day, and I have to admit this was a horrible, horrible animated movie. I just
Yeah.
did not like it at all, and I could see why. And they spent a lot of money on it, but I could see why a lot of people just didn't go see it. It was just one of these movies that just didn't attract people. And then Moonfall was the other
Oh
one.
yeah, I have that on my list. Yeah.
Moonfall was just a horrible, horrible. But funny enough, as the more I heard about how bad it was, I just wanted to see it. And
Yep.
I got to see it, and I will say this: I was entertained
It was entertained for a bad movie.
because
Is what I say.
Roland Emmerich, it's one of those things. He knows how to do disaster movies.
Yes.
There is no other man out there that knows how to actually destroy Earth. And this time, having the moon, try to fall on top of the Earth, I was like, listen, I mean, it's a great. You have to go into it with saying, you know what, probably a shot of bourbon. Maybe you might, want to smoke something and go in and just enjoy it for what it is. But not the greatest story, not the greatest dialogue. Fun if you have nothing else better to do and you're doing it from home and you didn't spend money on this. Other than that, a big disaster for this movie.
It was a big disaster, but the best takeaway out of it was John Bradley as the scientist, the English scientist that's living in America, but also deals with his mom.
Right.
And we know him from Game of Thrones, and I thought, he was great comic relief in it. And I think that's what really made me appreciate it, even though it was a bad film.
Right. Yeah, and for me personally, I mean, those were actually major flops this year that the industry actually had to deal with.
There's a couple more.
Yeah, no, but for
the
me,
Monsters.
Monsters was actually horrible too. For me, personal flops on that were Thor: Love and Thunder. While they made money and a lot of people liked it, critically, but a lot of diehard fans just thought that they took the comedic part of Thor
too much,
way too much.
Yeah, they did, and we didn't cover that for a reason too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with them. It's just while I love the character and I love what he did with Thor Ragnarok, I just think he took it way too far on this one. Jane Foster's story of her becoming Thor, but also having cancer, I just felt that that's a very deep level subject, and for it to be in a comedic movie just didn't make sense for me. So
I've always said this, they could always bring Jane Foster back as the mighty Thor for Secret Wars when we get the multiverse stuff going on.
She might come back as Valkyrie too, because in the comic book she came back as Valkyrie. So
exactly. So they have so much to work with, and Natalie Portman wiped away the bad taste in her mouth from Thor 2.
Right. I mean, we'll have to see what happens because Disney is going through some changes right now. Yeah. The other one for me, while you did like it, I was not a big fan of it, was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes. It had its moments. There's a lot of things critical about it. I do agree with you.
Right.
But overall, I did enjoy it for what it was. And that was why when we covered that, I did enjoy it.
I think I would have enjoyed it more, seeing as how Phase 4 was supposed to be about the multiverse and how WandaVision put that out there.
Yes.
Especially Spider-Man No Way Home was all about the multiverse. And then it just seems like that movie and this movie did not have any relations to it.
It kind of clashed. There was only one little seed that really intertwined both, and that was about it.
But I really expected more when it came to that whole multiverse thing, and
could have been a Sony Marvel relation thing at that point.
Could have been. I mean, this Phase 4 has been very strange. So
we have a lot more to look forward to with the next phases as well, too. So we'll get into that when we get to that point.
Top MCU movies or series this year.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special was probably the best project that they did in this entire phase.
Yes.
It was heartfelt. It was a lot of fun for a 1 hour show. It did so much more than some of the other shows out there.
Yeah, and I same thing with Werewolf by Night, which
Yep.
I thought was pretty good. And I have to say, Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, I was not a big fan of. Some people were a fan of it, some people weren't. It just didn't grab me the way. But then again, I'm not a big fan of the character itself.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare him to like being like Bruce
Batman.
Wayne and stuff like that. Like Marvel's version of Batman. I don't see it. But that
A
being
lot of people have that hard time, but I
Yeah.
think they kind of differentiated it within the show itself too.
correct,
He's got multiple personalities. He's not a rich billionaire, so
right?
and in this case, it's all about soul searching and mental health,
Yes.
which
And
we cover too on Panels to Pixels. So
yeah, and then Wakanda Forever was actually pretty good. Not as good as I would have hoped. I did not
Same here.
like Ironheart. I didn't like that character at all, and I did not like the take on Namor. But that being said, I mean, it was a very heartfelt send off to Chadwick Boseman, who passed away from colon cancer.
Yeah.
And those scenes did really they tugged at your heart a bit. They were very well
especially
done.
the opening
Right.
crawl too, with the MCU crawl, because
Correct.
it was every moment with Chadwick within the MCU.
Yeah.
Very much like they did with Stanley.
Right. My biggest problem with that movie was that for a character that was so big in Avengers Endgame, it was big on some of the
Civil
other
War.
Civil War. You would think that Black Panther passing away, you would have more heroes attend that funeral, but you didn't see that. And not only that, but this movie for some reason, was it I think the director Ryan Coogler,
Yes.
he did not want, I mean, or at least from what I've read, he did not want to somehow try to attach this movie to
With the other MCU properties
ongoing
that are
arc,
out there.
right?
Yeah.
Ongoing arc of what's going on for Phase 4, Phase 5. It was just supposed to be, and I thought that was a mistake.
I think it's a mistake too.
Yeah.
They should have at least had Bucky, because Bucky was brought to Wakanda.
Exactly. So
you have the
something like
White
that.
Wolf there as well.
Yeah.
And maybe have, Captain America himself, Chris Evans, come back as Captain America through time, showing his respect.
Or
Maybe.
something, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. But and then of course, I felt that and I remember somebody out there saying that the underwater effects would rival Avatar. And I was like, no.
No.
As a matter of fact, this movie seemed very rushed at some point.
Yeah.
And like the effects for that weren't that great. So like I said, the take on Namor, I just did not like. Did not like the whole, trying to change the entire origin of it. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
For other people did like that part of it. That's fine. It just wasn't my thing. Like I said, there were some great things in this movie, but then there were other things that I just questioned, and I said, well, is what it is. I'm not going to trash it because of Chadwick Boseman, but other than that, I mean, it
entertained us, ladies and gentlemen.
It entertained, but it left me wanting
more,
and to see other things. There was just, like I said, there were just certain things I didn't like. Star Wars has some good things also pop in this year, but also some bad things. Most of it, honestly, not as great as I thought.
Andor was really good.
Andor was actually the exception, and I started with Andor, honestly, hating it. I didn't like the first 2 episodes. I thought they were just very slow.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it just and I'm not a big fan of Diego Luna's. I thought Andor, the actual character of Andor, is just a boring character. I always thought of him as a boring character during Rogue One, but as you get to see the series and you get to see all the politics that are going on with the Empire, and towards the end, that big surprise on what it was that they were working on in the prison,
Yeah.
made it one of those shows that you went, damn, shit, now I like this whole show. So
Yeah.
that was actually a very good surprise, and it was a way to actually show that you could actually have a serious Star Wars movie for fans
Hmm.
out there. It doesn't have to always be for the kids,
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan was another one that, to me, it failed in a lot of things. It had some really good things. I didn't like the
Yes.
character of the second sister or whatever it was. I just thought that was a horrible part. But at the same time, and this is spoilers if nobody out there has seen this show, but the fact that they had Leia instead of Luke Skywalker was a big, I don't know, a big deceit. A lot of, it I don't think that's the character that they should have concentrated on. I think, Luke should have been the character that should have
I
concentrated on.
think
But
we will get that in the second season when that comes out.
if they come out with a second season, that's the whole thing. I mean, the way things are going now, we have to see if what they're going to do with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's been some surprising stuff out there.
Yeah, like the Book of Boba Fett had its ups and its downs as well.
I personally hated that whole show.
A lot of people did.
They took such an amazing character that had mystique. It had and he was very intriguing, mysterious, badass. That nobody messed with, and next thing you know, they just made him into this like happy-go-lucky bald guy that just that's smiling as he walks down the down the street at people. I was like, that's not Boba Fett. But
It's not. No,
here's what's interesting. I just read something of this.
they're going to make him a
weeks.
cannibal.
Well, I was reading that Tamora Morrison put out a tweet saying that he would like to see the character go back to its roots of being a badass.
That would be great.
So, which means that even he probably did not agree with all the choices they did with Boba Fett.
I'm pretty sure he had a little bit of creative differences with the script.
Yeah, but it wasn't that great. I mean, I think that this year, they released more than they probably should have. Top movies to look forward to in 2023. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting to see how this kicks off Phase 5 for the MCU and see how that goes. I mean, Phase 4 has been very questionable, and we don't have a clear understanding of what they're trying to do. So hopefully this will kind of kick it into the right direction, and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. The other one that's really big and it's been getting announced a lot is Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to. That's history.
Yeah.
Right there.
And that's going to be done by Christopher Nolan, who's actually, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm hoping that actually is pretty good. I'm looking forward to that. Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes.
I mean, just by seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special made me really look forward to the third movie, because it's fun being with those characters again.
James Gunn always puts out a really good movie.
Yeah.
And especially with these characters, and that's how basically his career skyrocketed after movies like Slither and Brightburn and everything else. He literally.
By the way, Brightburn, I think he was just a producer or executive producer.
But for the fact that he had a hand in it, now he's dealing with DC, which is basically that movie was evil Superman.
Exactly.
But there's also cool movies that are coming out, Into the Spider-Verse 2.
Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, when they released that trailer, I mean, the amount of Spider-Mans they had in there were just insane.
Crazy.
From Spider-Mans from the Sony video game, the PlayStation game, just an insane amount of different Spider-Mans. I was watching a video
paper bag Spider-Man from the Fantastic Four, where he puts a paper bag over his head.
They couldn't give him the Fantastic Four uniform,
logo.
Right?
Yeah.
But they they were having fun with that. I was like, All right, I look forward to that. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the
Yes.
fifth installment of the Indiana Jones series. Hopefully, this is going to be Harrison Ford's last time doing Indiana Jones,
Has
playing
to
that
be.
character. And we'll see where it goes. We'll see how this ends. And does it end, or does it, is it going to get continued, or is it going to get a reboot at some time in the future? So
We also have John Wick Chapter 4 coming out.
John Wick Chapter 4, which looks also amazing, and I mean, it's amazing. I find it interesting that all three movies take place within, I would say, a week. If you look at all three movies, you're like, yeah, this took place within like a few days.
So
All
literally,
three.
it's a month and a half of John Wick's life.
Yeah, so this is probably like, yeah, exactly, like week 3 or something like that, or
Yeah.
some crazy
Well,
stuff.
I still have to cover John Wick Chapter 3 with my friend Catcraft on Adrenaline
Right.
Cinema. We started the series off. We haven't really gotten to that point, and then we did Nobody.
Right.
And that's how we left it off. We're gonna try to get back to that before John Wick Chapter 4 comes out.
Yeah, but John Wick Chapter 4 looks pretty amazing. Of course, it's very over the top. And talking about over the top, Mission Impossible 7, of course.
Oh yeah,
Tom Cruise doing all the Mission Impossible movies has gotten to the point where people are looking forward to that. Just like we used to look forward to Jackie Chan doing movies and what crazy stunts he was going to do.
yeah.
And this is more of, hey, what else is Tom Cruise going to do that's so
Is
crazy?
he already snapped his leg during a movie? Is he going to snap his neck going into space?
He did that on what is it? Mission Impossible Fallout, where he broke his ankle. But
Yeah.
we just got to see what crazy stuff he's going to do on that. The other one is The Marvels, which is supposed to have Captain Marvel, is supposed to have Miss Marvel. I forgot who else is supposed to be in there. What other?
It was Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel, as far as I know, but there's supposed to be a third. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Is it Monica? I know Monica.
Yeah, Monica Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau is supposed to be in that too.
From WandaVision.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting her character because she had several names, but she also took up the name and mantle of Captain Marvel in the comics.
Photon, wasn't one of them
Photon, you're right.
Photon or something like that. Yeah, so, and then of course Dune 2, which I so enjoyed the first one.
I still have to sit and watch. It's one of those movies that you actually have to sit down and prep your mind for, because it's a lot of information and go through.
Funny enough, it's not as cerebral as I would say like the first Dune that came out
in the 80s.
In the 80s. Yeah, no, it's not like that. I mean, this is I mean, the visuals are breathtaking. The sound the sound design was phenomenal on this, and of course
the cast,
Hans Zimmer's soundtrack was also insane on that, but the cast was also great too.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that too, very much.
If we talk about little things, you already talked about crazy, but let's talk about the most weirdest stuff that's going to be coming out. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And of all things, Cocaine Bear.
And, I saw the trailer to that, and I was laughing so much, and I was like, I'm just gonna give.
You got to talk about outrageous films as well, and
yeah,
those are two a little bit outrageous.
Those things are. I mean, I don't know. I looked at this and I was like, "Who the fuck's idea was this?"
It's because the IP, the people that own the IP, let it slide, and people could still use it. And that
is Disney. Cocaine Bears like a property, like an old property?
No, I'm talking about Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, Winnie the Pooh, well, Blood and Honey, yeah.
That's how they were able to make that, because
I'm talking about
Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, I saw
that was
trailer.
based after a true story. So
I saw that trailer and I was like, who came up with this? I mean, insane. But yeah, no, that's something I'm definitely going to look forward to.
And more outrageous would be Kraven the Hunter.
Well, we'll see how that. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
And the Flash.
The Flash is something that we'll get into that in just a moment. With
yeah.
So In industry news, let's talk about this.
All right.
First, I mean, as everybody knows, with the Discovery and HBO merger, a lot of things had to change. A lot
Yeah.
of things had to Discovery had to go in and just pretty much look at every project there is because, of course, HBO and Warner Brothers are so much in debt that they need to do a lot of cutbacks. But at the same time, somebody in Warner Brothers said, especially I think in Discovery, said, hey, we need to have our version of Kevin Feige. And what they did was they just got James Gunn,
Yep.
from Guardians of the Galaxy and, of course, doing Suicide Squad to take over and make sure that everything that they do from this point on will relate to each other and will be just in one universe as opposed to be standalone things. And of course, the biggest thing he did was kill the Snyderverse, which means that Henry Cavill, after making his announcement online that he was going to come back as Superman, then he was out of a job because now they're going to just reboot the entire universe.
And he's got to recast Superman at this point.
Yeah, and he's actually working on the script, and I think he might even direct the next Superman coming out.
He might kick it off for this and then hand it over to somebody else because being, content supervisor, as it were, for DC.
What's interesting about that is the fact that one, like as we were saying, with Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, very arrogant, was like, hey, the hierarchy of power is about to change. Well, yeah, it did because he does not have a job anymore too. So they're not going to do it at Black Adam 2. He never wanted to do a versus with Shazam. His whole thing was with Superman. So he tried to bring in Henry Cavill in. It seemed very arrogant of him trying to be the one that like, hey, I'm going to kick this off. And in the end, that did not happen. So, I mean, Henry Cavill, from a lot of people think, well, he was going to be Superman. And so that's why he left The Witcher. I think a lot of people have heard that The Witcher, the reason he left The Witcher was because the writers did not respect the IP. And since he's such a big nerd when it comes to that, he was just about to, he was going to leave. And I mean, listen, the guy's not out of a job. He's now going to be doing Warhammer with Amazon Prime. But that being said, James Gunn is changing things around. What really surprises me is that The Flash is still going to come out. You got Aquaman 2 that is still going to come out. And you have, I believe, what's the other one I forgot what the other one's coming out. But the fact that if you're getting rid of the Snyderverse, why would I even invest myself in these two other movies if I know that nothing is going to continue from that? So that's why I'm very surprised that those movies are going to come out, but yet that he's going to change everything. And while I agree and don't agree of what he's doing, because Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman, and I wish I could have seen him. I wish I would have seen him in another movie. I understand, you just can't put a Band-Aid on a franchise that has been taken to like 17 different ways and not be as cohesive and not be as organized as Marvel has, even though Phase 4 for Marvel hasn't been like the best. But still, that being said, that what Marvel has is the one thing that a lot of people who are trying to actually do these IPs with these universes are, is it's very hard to do what Marvel's doing. Yeah. But, we'll see. We'll see what James Gunn does. I'm going to give him that chance. At first, I was like, no, I don't, I don't agree with it. But then after thinking about it, I was like, all right, again, you're putting a Band-Aid on something that's so horrible that how do you fix an IP that just, has gone in so many different directions? It's a lot harder to do that than probably just saying, you know what, let's just reboot from the very beginning. What do you think?
I think, they can't really put a Band-Aid over a gushing wound. And that's literally exactly what they were trying to do for a long time with some of these movies. And they needed, they saw what James Gunn had to offer with Guardians of the Galaxy with Marvel. And the funny thing is that James went back and did Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special,
Right.
and then finished up Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then you get Kevin Feige congratulating him and wishing him the best and looking forward to what he could bring.
Right.
Meaning that even Kevin Feige is looking forward to a DC movie that's good.
Hey, listen, I mean, I think we
it's
all
a lot
are,
of
right?
respect.
Exactly. So I think actually he was they were filming the holiday special at the same time that they were doing Guardians 3.
Yes.
Yeah, so which was crazy. But yeah, so I mean that's that part there with, Warner Brothers and Discovery, which is also very interesting to see what they're going to come up with, because again, there's going to be a lot of changes. They talking about some of the DC stuff, but they canceled Batgirl.
Yes.
They
filmed 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where James Gunn or Warner Brothers and everybody's just going in there, and it's like, listen, it's about time to let's try to do something of quality as opposed to quantity, which we'll get into that in a moment.
Well, quality would be like the Joker 2 that's coming out, as well as the Batman sequel that's going to be coming out.
And those are still coming out. So those
and they're all standalones. They're
Yeah.
not part of the Snyderverse. They're standalone DC properties from Warner Brothers, which made a lot of money.
Right. And from what I've been hearing is they're trying to see if somehow they can make the Batman a part of the new universe that they're doing, because they could if they wanted to.
They can make it a multiverse. Come on, they haven't done Crisis on Infinite Earths in the DCU.
I think they need to. I think they need to really put a slowdown on this multiverse thing, because everybody's trying to do the same thing, and it's just
CW did that already with their Flash universe, or actually the Arrowverse, I should say, because that's what Ben Beck actually did when he did DC Primetime, and he covered all the CW stuff.
Right.
And he was right in ending DC Primetime after Infinite Crisis, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Correct.
But they did it so well, all the other shows started, falling behind. The Flash started falling behind. Now it's in its last season, I believe.
Right. Well, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of the CW stuff has really fallen. I mean, they canceled Batwoman. They've canceled Stargirl. The quality of it is not that great. I mean, I think
Titans is still doing well on HBO, I believe.
And I'll be surprised. Yeah, and I'll be surprised if they don't cancel that too, because with all the cancellations that they've been doing, I would not be surprised if they cancel that one.
The best DC property they did put on HBO was the Watchmen series. Which I thought that was done very
right, well. And unfortunately, it was meant to only be one season,
a one-off,
right? A one-off. Yeah. So, which maybe that's the best thing, because as soon as you get into a second season, it might actually kill, the quality of what they had there. But talking about changes, so one of the big news this year was Bob Iger coming back to Disney to basically try to put Disney back in, back where it's supposed to go. I mean, they spent so much money on Disney Plus, and of course, a lot of people did not like the changes that were happening around Disney. One of them
was Bob Chapek's. That was all his thoughts, and a lot of it was literally sucking dry of the guests that come to Disney.
Oh my God. I mean, from what I hear, food went up in price. The ticket prices went up in price, but also they wanted to charge a premium for all the popular rides. So if you really wanted to get on that, you had to pay extra.
Yes.
Whether Bob Iger is going to change all that or not, I don't know. But I mean, the fact that he's coming in, I think it's a 2-year plan that he's going to come in and try to get, because I mean, Bob Iger has always been about the creative, the people and the creatives that are actually out there creating these things, and not I mean, he's still a money guy, but he's also really big into the creative part of it. I'll be very interested on seeing what he does, because I think he's also gonna they're also gonna try to revamp a lot of what Disney Plus is.
Yeah.
The fact that they came out with so many shows in one year with Star Wars and MCU,
Yeah.
almost an oversaturation of it, and
And Willow too,
right,
to
and the
boot.
quality was not. Yeah, let me tell you, I've been watching Willow. It has not impressed me at all.
I had hopes for it within the first two episodes, and then as soon as they started modernizing it, I was like, I see where they're going, but also it's not appealing to the core audience that you want with the original Willow,
Yeah,
which is literally about the kids. Now you're making it too adult. You're using four-letter curse words in it, and putting adult themes in it. And I think,
yeah. I just
yeah,
think they, yeah, for something that's supposed to be like medieval, something that's supposed to be, take place in the past. There's way too much modern language and modern things happening on this. The fact
correct.
that, I mean, this last episode that I saw, spoilers for those of you. So if you want to shut off things now, now's the time. The fact that you had trolls that were talking, with an
Yes,
English accent and just, it's
that
just like
bothered me.
that. I was just like, what the hell is
And then
this?
they brought in Christian Slater.
I didn't mind Christian Slater, but it was, yeah, they brought him in, they killed him right away. We'll see if he's so. So another thing that's actually huge also is the fact that now YouTube actually acquired Sunday Night Football, and that's that's a bold thing that Google did. I mean, Google has all the money in the world, so sure,
Yeah,
of course they could do that, but they're trying to, I think they're trying to get people to do Sunday Night Football because of course YouTube has YouTube TV, so
yeah.
hopefully to get more subscribers to subscribe to YouTube TV. I have YouTube TV and it's excellent, service. I think it's great. So yeah, no, it's something that now people are gonna have to be like, shit, now I gotta subscribe to YouTube TV
Another one. Yeah.
or something else. So and then of course one of the biggest talks this year was the Oscar slap, what happened with Will Smith in the Oscars in the
Chris
beginning
Rock.
of the year and Chris Rock. Um Incredible that one, he's trying to do this whole comeback thing. He has that new show on Apple TV, Emancipation. He did not get any nominations on that, so he was hoping to, he I think he was trying to do this, this whole comeback. I was like, man, that's a little too soon, dude.
Yeah, it is.
I think that slap is still very fresh in people's minds and stuff like that. So, I mean, listen, I'm willing to forgive and forget. Um, it's not like Mel Gibson, which his comeback was very very slow, and he still never came back the way he used to be. I mean, he's doing movies now, but
Yeah,
I mean, such a phenomenal actor to just ruin his career that way. But Will Smith again, also another and he was the most likable, one of the most likable actors out there.
Yeah.
And for him to do what he did, and now he can't even go to I think he's been banned from the Oscars or from membership to the Oscars, or to the Academy for 10 years. So yeah, we have to see what's gonna happen on that. Anything that you could think of that probably happened in the industry this year that's worth mentioning?
Nothing at the moment.
Nothing at the
Not that I
moment.
think of. Yeah, not that I
Yeah,
can think of. But yeah, that a lot of that is world shattering between the Oscars, especially with Disney. Disney,
right.
that's a big thing too, because it involves families and everybody's getaway. And with them launching Galaxy's Edge throughout the pandemic, and then overcharging, that
Yeah,
was the biggest thing. Is like
yeah.
charging for every park in Disney World as an
Charging
individual.
you get charged $100-something to get in, and now you're being charged even more for every ride,
Yeah,
and that is just outrageous. I mean,
it's like, all right, they need John Hammond from Jurassic Park, because he even said this is not just for the super rich. And I am sure, Chapek was like, well, we'll have a coupon day. And honestly, no, that's not going to happen. That's why they got rid of him. He got rid of Chapek and
right.
got Iger back, because Iger appealed to the families. He appealed to the artists, the people that do create and make it worthwhile.
The thing that we have to see is whether Iger is going to now, take that away, for the park, So that's going to be an interesting next year. Be very interesting to hear whether he's going to change things when it comes to that.
It's going to be touch and go,
Yeah.
but I have high hopes in the sense that they'll try to make it easier because you have people who have family passes for years or people that live within, like, let's say in Florida and they're going to Disney World. Because you live there, you get a discount and you can go at a certain time because it's like,
Well, they took that away. You know that,
yeah,
right?
they took that away, but they
Right.
could bring that back.
They could bring that back. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens there. Streaming wars. Interesting. So most people, I know a lot of people that always are asking me, hey man, I'm looking for a way to cut the cord. And I would say Netflix is the biggest one because Netflix during the pandemic, they decided that they wanted to do a new show almost every week.
Yeah.
They've been pouring tons of money into these shows, and a lot of these shows, have not been great. I mean, things like Red Notice, with The Rock, just wasn't received very well. And they say, of course, it was the biggest streaming, one of the largest streaming shows out there, but they never publicly put out, what those numbers were. That being
No.
said, Netflix is now going to go into an ad model, and it's going to now start cracking down on account sharing this
Yes.
coming year. So we're going to have to see how that goes. The surprising part of Netflix was because Netflix, has not put out really great shows. I mean, they've done some, like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
They've done a few things, but nothing that I would say will really, make you come back for something that you look for. Yeah, I don't know. They're not there. But the biggest surprise was actually Wednesday. This thing came out of left field for a property that's 60 years old or over 60 years old. And it was the number 2 or number 3 most streamed show in Netflix history.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I think that what they're going to try to do is one, maybe the ad model is going to probably work for them to get extra revenue in order for them to actually come out with better shows. But I think also they need to slow it down and just do some good quality stuff as opposed to trying to pour so many shows into it. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of money that they're just rolling out there. And from what I hear, a lot of shows have actually been canceled or they're redoing the budget because they're like, listen, we're no longer there anymore.
Yeah, they're bleeding out is what it is. They're banking on these shows to grab more subscribers. Honestly, that's how it works.
Right.
But they're also investing into these shows and they're pumping out content. All right, this looks like something to invest in. They actually did that the way they started, if you look at it, there were shows like Orange is the New Black that launched it and got everybody all excited because it was original content at that time. And people kept going. And then they acquired the Marvel properties with Daredevil and Punisher, and then doing the Defenders and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist.
Yeah, but they lost a lot of that, and a lot of people, of course. One of the things that's going to be interesting to see, because with Disney Plus, which of course Disney's like, hey, we own all this, why not do our own streams? But I think it's going to be interesting because I think that's what's going to happen is that Disney Plus is going to probably say, hey, instead of us hoarding it all, let's just license this again out there. And, so because that's another way of actually bringing in revenue to these streaming services and these companies, because just hoarding it to yourself and just hoping that you're just going to continuously get new subscribers is wishful thinking.
Well, that a lot of that stems from the fact that they had to change their format to give you adult content so that it wasn't flagged, because with those Netflix shows going to Disney Plus, they had to make them for mature,
right?
So that way they could keep it. Now, mind you, they did edit it a little bit because they weren't happy with the content, but it's still there in its purest format,
right?
And we get that. And now that, Disney is going to be putting out a Deadpool 3 movie, which is going to be rated R. And we're getting more R-rated style material a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
They're changing it up.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they're going to handle that, because I know that Disney Plus in other countries, especially in India. So in India, Disney Plus was huge because, of course, what is it? Cricket. or something
Yeah.
like that, the sport. And because they lost that, there's a good chance that they might lose a lot of subscribers also on that. Now, mind you that out in India, they don't charge people, per month the way they do us here. So if we pay, I don't know, $10 a month for Disney Plus,
Mm-hmm.
over there they're probably paying like, $2 or $3 a month for that. That being said, but they still might lose, a lot of those subscribers. So I'll be very interested to see what Disney Plus is going to do. Again, Disney Plus was just hemorrhaging money also with with the Marvel series, with the Star Wars stuff. I mean,
series,
these are expensive projects, and so I'll be very interested to see what Bob Iger does when it comes to that, and see he might just say, listen, instead of putting 5 shows a freaking year, we're going to only put 2 or 1, but it's going to be very good quality, just
and
like they did.
longer
Right,
formats.
exactly, just like they did with Endor. I think with Endor, I mean, that's a great way of putting something out. You tell me that I'm going to have that good quality, but I have to probably wait a year for it. I'll be fine with that. I'm not a problem. It's not a problem with that. The problem with these streaming services that, a lot. So Netflix has always been the type that says, hey, we put out the entire series all in one shot. So the binging model, Netflix is the one that came up with that. And a lot of people love that. But once Disney Plus came out, especially with their premiere show, which was The Mandalorian, it was weekly. And all of a sudden we went back to discussing a show every week.
At the water cooler every week.
Right. The water coolers, talk every week about it, as opposed to doing a binge. You do a binge, you talk about it once and you forget about it. So it'll be very interesting to see how Disney Plus and how Netflix tackle that, and how everybody else is going to tackle that. Hulu, which is also part of the Disney family, they own part of it. I know the other part I think is owned by either Comcast or something like that. But I'd be very interested to see if what they're going to do is try to actually buy out Comcast from for their part, or if they're just going to sell it, or see how they're going to actually put this in. So how they're going to merge Hulu and Disney Plus together in the future. So that would be very interesting. I know Hulu comes out with some original stuff. Like I said, they came out with Prey, which actually was excellent.
Yep. Movie.
Yeah.
And then they did Pam and Tommy, the TV series.
Correct.
Which was a short series. They have Chippendales now.
Yes.
And
the other one was the one with the women that are being it's like a dystopian future kind of thing with
Handmaid's Tale?
Handmaid's Tale. So that's all, original Hulu so
content. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, Discovery and HBO. Now, because Discovery bought out HBO, the biggest question has been is what's going to happen with both streaming services. And I think what they mentioned was that Discovery is going to merge with HBO, and the HBO name will go away. So it's just going to be called Max. And probably inside, they're going to do probably the same thing that Disney Plus does with their tabs, which you have the Marvel tab, you have the Star Wars tab, Net Geo tab. So they might do something like that where you'll have
you
HBO.
You can choose the particular content that you want based upon your preference.
So that's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to go. And then, of course, how much they're going to charge for that, because, of course, I'm sure the prices on that are going to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prime having a lot of money. One of their biggest disasters, from what I hear, was the Lord of the Rings show. The
Rings of Power.
The Rings of Power. I hear they're going to try to go back to make it seem more like the movies, like the original movies, or make it more try to emulate a lot of the stuff that that's in the books. Because what happened was, when they bought the property for Lord of the Rings, they didn't buy everything.
Well, the family didn't want to give up a lot of it, so the Tolkien family didn't want to sell completely. They only gave it so much. A lot of what the Rings of Power is supposed to be were based on the Silmarillion, which the family did not sell, which is the history of the rings and how they are. So they basically took other stories that the son and the grandson had continued writing in Tolkien lore that added, predating the actual Lord of
Right.
the Rings
And
series,
we'll
The
see.
Hobbit.
We'll have to see what happens there because that's interesting. Because let me say, I saw it and I was not a big fan of it.
Yeah,
It was okay,
yeah,
and there was some people actually complained about the visual effects. I thought they were just they were just
they're
fine.
okay.
They were okay. House of the Dragon, I think, was a much better show.
Yeah, but that was HBO, and
But
HBO
that was
pours a lot of
HBO, of
money
course,
out.
right?
Yeah.
But actually, House of the Dragon cost less to make than Rings of Power.
Yes,
I
it
will
does.
be very interested to know where the fuck did all that money go. I mean, you guys spent billions and billions of dollars. Where's that money going? So I think they need to get an auditor in there. But
Yeah.
that being said, I think that there's some changes that are coming to Prime now with Henry Cavill going to Warhammer.
Yep. And Good Omens too.
Yeah, so that I just finished seeing Jack Ryan. That was actually very good. So, Prime is getting Prime has some good shows. They're still not
Yeah.
up there like Netflix or like, Disney Plus, but I would say it'll be very interesting to see what's going to come up this year and what, properties they're going to, come up
Yeah,
with.
it'd be nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do come like if you think about it, every paid streaming service that we have, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Disney Plus,
HBO
and
Max.
HBO Max all have dedicated shows that
Correct.
everybody wants. So with Disney owning ESPN, Disney Plus,
Right.
and one other that I'm thinking, Nat Geo, and a couple others, they're grouping, and you could get a combined, service plan that holds all three apps, and you have the same login.
Yeah, Disney Plus, or at least the Disney company who owns also ESPN. I know they have a package for Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. Again, seeing what that does. The other one that we didn't mention was Apple TV. Apple TV actually has, so
Apple TV Plus, yeah.
Yeah, Apple TV has gotten also into that arena. I don't think they're trying to compete the same way as
No,
the
but
others are.
they have really good content.
They have excellent content.
The Servant, Mythic Quest, Ted Lasso, which
yes,
is gaining major praise, which is coming back for its final season soon.
right.
And then a whole bunch of slew of others that they put out that go under like physical, which I started getting into.
The one thing that Apple TV did, of course, last year, winning the Oscar for Best Picture for Coda, and then of course, Ted Lasso also being such a great hit. So Apple TV has the ability and the money, honestly, to come up with some great stuff. It'll be very interesting to see what they're going to do this coming year.
Same here.
Yeah, with some of the things that they're doing. I think they were hoping that, Emancipation would have been something that, would have gotten them another Oscar or something like that. But because of, Will Smith being stupid,
yep,
of course, that didn't happen. Of course, he got snubbed on that one. So yeah, so that's pretty much our year-end review on a lot of the things that have been happening in the industry, and of course in a lot of things there. So I know we haven't been on for a while, as everybody out there may or may not know. I mean, of course, this is a project of love. I mean, we all have day jobs. So since we work in an industry, Mark and I work in an industry where during the holidays it takes up so much of our times, and it's just been very hard for me to get back. But I'm hoping that 2023 is gonna be a lot better. It'll be our second year with this podcast. We're going to do some, probably do some changes that are going to help the podcast, which are great.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go on hiatus probably for like a month or two and then come back and then hopefully hit it hard. I'm hoping to be a little more consistent with the podcast itself too.
Yeah.
Try to have maybe more people come on and, and participate in our, fantasy picks and things like that, which a lot of people from what I hear enjoy. The one thing I would say is, of course, subscribe and, and like. It does definitely help the podcast and helps us grow out there. And of course, word of mouth is always great on that. But that being said, yeah, that's pretty much our show for today. Mark, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast on the Powercore Entertainment Network, just like Fantasy Picks Movie Edition is. There we cover, action, adventure, thriller, suspense films. After you listen to this, you could easily just go straight to that particular podcast, and Ocean's 11 review will be up with me and Ben Beck. You could look forward to hearing Rob being on for Ocean's 12 and 13 review, as well as we discuss the whole trilogy, as it were. So we're going to continue that on within the next few months. Probably once a month, we'll probably do those. And I threw a few feelers out there for other movies. So just all you have to do is go to facebook.com/Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. You could also hear me on Panels to Pixels podcast, soon to be on the Pyrocore Entertainment Network, because I'll be moving that from Next Level Online Radio Podcast Network over to Pyrocore.
All right, guys. So thank you so much. I want to wish everybody a great holidays. I mean, hopefully, you know, for those of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas for you guys. Happy Hanukkah and happy holidays for everybody. But also, I wish you guys a really good New Year's coming up. Hopefully, everybody's going to be safe, and let's hope that this coming year brings us, you know, a lot better things than 2022. That being said, once again, you know, to support this podcast, just, you know, to make sure you subscribe and you know, just spread word of mouth and let other people know that, you know, if you enjoy it, you know, let them know. Other than that, I will hopefully see you guys within, you know, probably within 2 months and go from there. So, yeah, that's it for the show. And thank you so much for you guys, especially those who have actually tuned in every month. I do appreciate your support, and thank you so much for tuning in and, you know, and keeping us around, you know, for some laughs.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, that is it.
Goodbye.
See you next year.
Yep. See you next year.